Has Apple killed lead generation for real estate investors with their new iOS 14 update? Those are the questions I've been getting asked, and in this video I'm going to answer those questions for you here today, once and for all, so you know exactly what the truth is. So what is going on here? Apple has decided that they would prefer for you to have control over your privacy, so that now you can decide that you can be on your app and not worry about, say, being on Facebook and then going away from Facebook and Facebook still tracking you. In their new update, they have decided to make it so that you as a consumer have a choice. And so what will happen is that there's a certain percentage of the iOS 14, the iPhone devices, that will not have tracking on. What does that mean? Well, that means is this. Let's say that you are a property owner and you're thinking about selling your property, and you decide that, hey, I'm going to go to Zillow and see if I can figure out what my property is worth. Now, Zillow has a Facebook Pixel installed, just like every other website out there who knows what they're doing, have their Facebook Pixel installed. And then you're on Zillow, and what's happening is that the Pixel is sending a signal to headquarters saying, hey, Chico was just on Zillow. Look at him. He's looking to sell his house. And now they have stored that information. Now, when you come in and you're like, hey, I want to target anybody who visited Zillow to see if they might be interested in selling their property at a discount, then Facebook is going to be like, oh, Chico, he was just there. And then they're going to show the ad to me. And that's how it works. And it's a beautiful thing. It's how we all make money. But Apple doesn't think it's so beautiful. So they said, no, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to leave it up to the consumer to say no. And the way they worded this prompt, it makes it sound so horrible. Like as if I asked you, hey, Chico's going to come over your house and be with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even watch you while you take a shower and go to the bathroom to go poo-poo. Would you want that? You probably would say no. But they're saying it in a way that it makes it sound so horrible. So now, how is that going to affect you as a real estate advertiser? That means that Facebook is going to go down the tubes? Well, I've got some interesting news because I've been running some tests, okay, and I'm going to share those tests with you, but I'm going to also explain to you there's things that are going to be affected and things that are not going to be affected. So why don't we get into that? Because I have my notes and I'm not going to forget here. All right, what's going to be affected is your interest targeting. So if you're targeting people who visited Trulia, Zillow, and Homes.com, then and maybe people who visited a home refinancing site or an appraisal site, those audiences are going to shrink. Why? Because people on iOS devices are going to get that warning, they're going to freak out, they're going to say, no, don't track me, and then they're going to go and they're going to be like ghosts. That means that then there's less of them to go around. The counter to that is that you would just take in your, if you know anything about campaign structures or anything like that, I'm not going to get into that here, but you can watch some of my other videos on that. You're just going to shrink your ad set. So instead of individually taking and targeting those audiences, and you're just going to put them all together because they're going to be smaller. So that is going to be affected. Now, one thing that's not affected is anything that happens on the Facebook platform. All right, so that means that if you are running Facebook ads and you're sending people to a lead generation ad, the lead generation ad is where they're using a lead form. So rather than somebody clicking on your ad and then going to your website, then they stay on the Facebook platform and they submit their information, and then now Facebook then registers that's all trackable. Why? Because it's on the app. Also, if you are running any sort of video campaigns, if you're running ads that have videos and then you wanted to retarget, say, people that watch a certain percentage of your video, then that is going to work too. Why? Because it's all happening in the platform. However, if, say, for example, somebody clicks on your ad, they'll go to your website and they don't fill out the form. There's what's called a retargeting ad, meaning that I can run an ad in a campaign with Facebook and say, hey, I want you to target everybody that went to my website but didn't fill out a form. Guess what? That is going to be less effective now than it was before. Why? Because if you have 10 people that go from Facebook to your website, a certain percentage of those are going to be on an iPhone. They're going to go to your website, and you're not going to be able to track them. So that means that then your retargeting, the effectiveness of your retargeting campaigns is not going to be that great. Let me tell you, I don't care. Why? Because maybe out of every 100 leads, maybe 2 or 3 came from retargeting. And so they weren't that great anyway. So don't worry about that. Now, what is going to be affected, however, is somebody does click on your ad and you send them to your website, maybe using Carrot or ClickFunnels, and then now they submit their form on the website and they become a lead. Your tracking on the ads interface showing you, hey, how many leads you had, it's going to be off. likelihood is that going to be off by a couple, 2 or 3, depending on your volume. Say out of if you have 50 leads, maybe you might show as only 45 leads coming in through Facebook. Why? Because they weren't able to track the conversion. Now, Facebook has a bunch of different statistical models that they're using in order to determine, what the actual leads are and everything else. But that's just a fancy way of saying it. They have no idea, but they're going to guess, and that's all you can get. The big question is, does that mean that then, what are you saying, Chico? You're telling me a lot of information. Does that mean that I'm not going to be able to generate leads on Facebook? I thought, oh my gosh, it's all going to come to an end now. And so last week I was running a bunch of ads. And at the beginning, the first couple of days, they weren't really working out that well. Why? Because when Facebook makes changes in their platform, sometimes, it's like turning a knob. Sometimes they turn the knob too hard. And then they're like, things don't work, they break things, and then they turn it back down to exactly where they want. So at the beginning of the week, it was the case. But then all of a sudden now, the last 3 days, it's been a bonanza. It's like the heavens open up and God said, Chico, I'm going to give you all the leads you want because you've been such a good boy. That's what happened. In fact, let me show you exactly what happened here. I want to just show you. These are the leads. These are leads over the last 3 days. And you'll notice that there are 78 of these leads here. Now, these leads are from all over the country. They're in Florida and all across the USA. And I'll tell you what the cost per lead is on all of these here. But basically, over the last 3 days, we've had 78 leads. How much of an impact would it be for you in your real estate business if you had 78 leads coming in over the last 3 days? People that have raised their hands and said, yes, I'm interested in selling my property. That's what this is. Facebook is giving you leads that are warm, ready to do business with you, as opposed to cold calling or SMS or anything like that. And it still works. It works like gangbusters. So what does it cost to generate leads like this? Right now I'm running Florida campaign. So I'm targeting the entire state of Florida. And those leads there are costing us about $30 to $35 a lead. I also have campaigns where I'm targeting a grouping of states, putting them all together in one campaign. And those leads are coming in about $15 to $20 a lead. I also have a campaign that I'm targeting the entire US. And those leads there are coming in at about $5 to $7 a lead, depending on the campaign. So think about it. If you could generate leads all across the country in all kinds of different markets at $5 or $7 a lead, for $1,000, for $500, think about how many leads you'd be able to generate. And is it possible that if you generated 100 leads at $5 a piece, would you be able to get a deal from it? And now the big question that comes up is that, hey, what if I don't know the market? What if I don't have any buyers? Perfect example is I just did a deal last week with one of these leads in Jacksonville, Florida. I've done deals in Jacksonville before, a very long time ago, but I haven't done deals there recently. So I had a lead that came in. I talked to the property owner, gave him an offer, 50% of Zillow. In the end, they told me a number that would work for them. I called a friend of mine that's up in that area. I said, hey, you want to do a deal together? He said, yes. Called the seller, met with them the next day. An hour later, called the buyer. The buyer said yes. Put a deal on the contract, both the seller and then the buyer, all within the span of a couple hours, and we did a deal together, all from these leads. So these are viable leads that are coming in, and it's not been affected at all by the whole changes happening in Apple iOS 14. And so I would encourage you that if you are interested in generating leads, better leads, warmer leads, then give Facebook a try. And here's what I'm going to do for you. On my follow-up video after this one, I'm going to record one of me calling these property owners so you can see firsthand how those conversations go. And then now you can see for yourself that, hey, maybe Chico isn't just full of crap. How about that? Slam your Apple computer on the floor just to say a little bit hello to Mr. Tom Cook. No, Mr. Tim Cook.
Who's Tim Cook?
I hate Apple.